Unfortunately for the visual learners in the room, my HDMI cable for my Mac walked away yesterday, so I have to go to the Mac store later today to get another one. However, I only have 10 minutes here, and so in 10 minutes there's only so much you can do. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Oh.
You want USB-C?
No, it's the old MacBook, that's the problem. Yeah. USB-C, there's one in front of me actually for USB-C, but my slides though will be uploaded onto the thing. And for those that are interested in what I'm going to talk about here, we'll be doing a full demo of our Monax platform at 2:45. My CTO will be doing it. So what I want to talk about today is going to be a little bit of a two-part thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the theory of running business process execution engines on blockchain, why that's interesting, and how we do it. And then if you're interested in the visual demonstrator of that, at 2:45, Silas will be doing the visual demonstrator. So business process modeling on a blockchain. Why is that interesting? Well, for us it's interesting because if you take a look across blockchain use cases, you almost always have three sets of things that you need to manage. You need to manage objects. In other words, what am I dealing with here in the real world, or are these business objects? Then you have to deal with actors, who is able to do things on this particular chain, if there was a supply chain use case, if it was a registry use case, if it was a financial asset use case. You always are going to have a mapping of the people that are people, organizations, and roles within organizations, how they, what can they do and when. And finally, you're going to have processes. And the way that a lot of blockchain use cases are being developed now in the very early days of this industry is that and we did a range of this in the past, is that you take a use case, you might get a flow diagram from a client, and then you hard code a process into a smart contract layer and say, this is how we're going to do things now. And that works fine for proof of concept level stuff, but it doesn't really scale very well. So what we have built is, as far as I know, the biggest Solidity-based, biggest Solidity code base in open source. And it's well over 20,000 lines of Solidity, 13,000 lines of documentation around all of the Solidity contracts. And what this system does is it builds a process execution engine that allows you to graphically define your process models, upload those into the environment, and the blockchain-based system will then manage and operate that process model. And we've built this in a manner where it's relatively easy to do. And the way that we've done this is we've taken a specification that is pretty well known across the business process modeling domain called BPMN, and that's an XML standard. And we have a high-level API that allows you to ingest that XML standard. And at the ingestion point, what happens is the API picks apart that XML standard, and then it sends transactions into the blockchain that sets up a process model in Solidity code that mirrors the XML document that you have set up. And then you have a process model on a blockchain, and then you have an object layer that at some point along the life cycle of an object ingests one or more process models into the process execution engine. Then the process execution engine manages this business process for you. And what this allows in sum is the ability for business users to graphically define and outline in tools that they relatively well know, depending on who the business user is, what a particular process flow is, and then ingest that into a blockchain where you are gaining the benefits of cross-company coordination. And for, it doesn't look like any of the SAP, are any of the SAP folks in the room? Oh, okay. Anybody else that makes a lot of money selling business process modeling software? All right. Well, I don't think those companies should be concerned because what we're talking about with business process modeling technology on a blockchain doesn't really at all seek to displace what existing BPM deployments would do within a company's data centers or within their cloud environments. The idea of BPM on a blockchain is to take those ideas, move them into a shared infrastructure, which allows us to have cross-company collaboration and coordination, all the good things about blockchain that we're all here to laud and learn about. And that supplements existing business process modeling engines. Because if you look at a business process model from one company's perspective, there will almost always be a phase of that business process which will be a black box to a single company. And that black box will be, when do we have to reach outside the four walls of our company to get some information, to get approval, to query a web service that we don't run, et cetera. And those points along a business process flow are the essential bits of why you would move it into a blockchain. So that is my 10 minutes. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but if folks have questions, again, I apologize for the a lack of visuals, but at 2:45 we'll be doing a demo of this entire system. Thank you.